Well, welcome. Tonight, we're going to look at things from the left side of the audience. Why don't we start with introductions?
I'm Carolyn Barthel, and I live in Mendon, Massachusetts.
And I'm Rand Barthel, and I live in the same house in Mendon, Massachusetts.
So there's no question on which way you're leaning in the primary.
Yes, that's
No,
right.
we got the Bernie sticker.
We
Yeah,
have our Bernie buttons.
The Bernie buttons are on.
Yes, they are.
Why Bernie?
He's authentic. He's consistent. He really, not every politician makes every vote perfectly, because sometimes in different bills and that are before the Congress, there are other reasons why they want to vote a certain way, and so sometimes you have to take the bad with the good. But I like who he is and where he's coming from.
Now, Rand, I think Bernie brings with him an air of sincerity. I mean, I haven't had or I haven't heard anybody say he's a fake or he moves with the wind. But people question, is he realistic?
Right.
And Margaret Thatcher had the famous line, socialism is wonderful till you run out of other people's money.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll ask you the question that I asked a few people. Blah, 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 socialist, blah, blah, blah. Our whole life we've been fighting socialism, proving that capitalism works.
Okay.
What is Bernie's point that he's a socialist?
Well, his point is, first of all, the form of capitalism that we have right now is not working for an awful lot of people. And it's easy to forget that if you kind of live in a bubble of upper middle class privilege, but the fact is that there is a lot of economic hardship out there, and we have an economy now in which our economy has become tremendously more productive in the last few decades, and most of the new wealth that's been created that way has gone straight to the people at the top. And so part of the point that Bernie is making is that we need to restore some economic justice. And the other, I guess, yeah.
There's also a recognition that there are somehow socialism is over here and we don't have anything to do with it. However, we have Medicare, we have a 40-hour work week, we have
Social Security.
Social Security. There are a whole host of...
But isn't that part of our capitalist society?
Well, it is, and in the places that Bernie admires, he's spoken highly of certain European countries, which have a more comprehensive array of public social services than we do. They also practice capitalism there, and so he's not talking about nationalizing all of industry or anything like that.
I mean, when you think of socialism,
I know, and we've been.
That was communism. That was theoretically communism. That's different from socialism. Socialism is a mild. To me, it's always been a milder version. They're not the same.
But see, I think that's the problem. You think Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, it's a milder version of communism. But
it isn't really.
Is it?
No, it's not.
First of all, Bernie's talking about, let's move to the Russian state of economy.
I think also the thing that's really exciting for people about him is that he's actually talking about how we need to have, how there is something called the common good, where people have a sense of community and taking care of each other, and that in the last 40 years in the Republican lexicon has not existed. It is all for me. It is all for my company. It's all, it's not for anybody else. There's no benefit in my nice working with other people.
Donald Trump saying,
that guy.
We're going to make America stronger and better. And then you say, well, how? When I hear of some of the stuff Bernie's saying, sounds good, but how? Is it practical?
Yeah. Well, he's asking that we expand our definition of practical to include a bolder notion of where we want to get to. Let's start with a vision of where we want to get to, and his vision of where we want to get to is basically, let's complete the architecture of social services that we started with Social Security and Medicare. Let's make health care truly universal. Let's make sure that no young person doesn't go to college or technical school because they can't afford to, because it's silly to waste people.
It costs money to waste people.
You know, poverty is very expensive, and so you put those services in place. Yes, you have to pay higher taxes to get them, but what you end up with is a society that works better for more people than what we have now. That's the thesis. And now the question becomes, how do you get there?
But you know, take the point of
from
college.
where we are. Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to argue that the more kids we get through college, the better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, a few years ago, Father McFarland, the president of Holy Cross, sent me a nice letter when my daughter was at school, telling me about all the cost cutting, all the great things they're doing. And then at the end, because I asked him, I said, you went to Holy Cross, didn't they teach you how to write? And he said, why? I said, because the last sentence that stuck home is, because of that, we're only going to go up 5.5% to $58,000. And I said, you know, Father, with all due respect, only in 58,000?
Those don't go together very well.
Not in the same sentence.
Right.
And on top of that, inflation is less than 2%. So you feel proud that you've let your expenses go up 2.5 times inflation? I don't get it.
Or because we have cut our costs so much, therefore we're going to raise your tuition.
Yes.
Yeah,
So now,
those
why
don't
are
go
we
together very well.
at the root cause saying, wait a minute?
Well, that has to be part of it, of course.
Because I see my daughter's friends, I don't know how these kids are ever going to dig themselves out.
Of
When
debt.
they come out of 50 to 100,000, one of the little girls on our street graduated law school with $190,000 of school debt.
Yeah. There
Our
are
son
people
could
that
have
are,
gone to law school and chose not to because of that very reason.
190,000
Yeah, it's unreal,
is
isn't
more
it?
than we paid for our houses.
yeah.
And the
You know-
expectation is, you're a lawyer, you should be able to make that back. That's the expectation.
Well, but wait a minute, you're
But-
graduating with an English degree. You're going to be a
Right.
teacher.
Right.
We know the salaries are in the 40, 50.
Right.
Where are you going to be able to pay back even a
Indeed.
$100,000 loan, right? Plus, let's see, now you're in the real world, you need a house or an apartment or something.
Yeah, there are other expenses.
all of which is arguably making Bernie's point. The way we have things now doesn't work because it's bankrupting the people at the bottom
But
of the
when
economic
does Bernie
schedule.
come out and tell me, one of the ways I'm going to make college affordable is I'm going to deal with the expenses. We're not going to tolerate 2 to 3 times inflation. I mean, we came up with fancy terms called medical inflation, which absolutely infuriates me. Because all we're doing is rationalizing
Right.
that the cost of medicine or providing health care is going up four times inflation, and we say, oh, only 8%?
Yeah.
Only?
You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the problem I guess I'm not understanding.
I don't think we've heard enough from him about that.
No, I think there'll be more.
There will have to be.
People will require him to provide more information about what he wants to do and how he wants to do it.
Yeah, but Donald Trump, which we'll talk about later on the other side, leading Iowa with 40%, and he's never said anything except, I'll make it better.
Yeah, I'll make it, put me in charge and I will fix it and I'll make it wonderful.
Yeah.
You want to know how I'm going to do it? Not going to tell you.
The one other thing I want to say about Bernie is that some of the things that he is proposing are not, he's doing it in the tradition of FDR and LBJ. Those two former presidents, Democratic presidents, really pushed the envelope in our sense of what is the common good and how can
Great
we
Society.
take care of people.
And the New Deal.
And the New Deal. Bernie's no different from the New Deal.
It's basically a continuation of
he
it.
really is no different from what he calls socialist, to me, is the New Deal.
So how do you think Bernie would go about paying for these wonderful?
Well, he said some things about that.
He's going to tax the upper echelon.
Yeah, but if I remember, the good Dr. Obama said, "I'm only going to tax the ultra rich.
Right.
Only those people making $1 million, oh no, 500, 250." And all of a sudden, the middle class is getting hit upside the head again.
Yeah. Well, so I mean,
Is there enough money up there to do it?
well, I haven't done the
Yeah.
numbers myself.
Given given that 14 people in this country in the last year made $157 billion, 14 people in 1 year. That's, you know, the money's got to be there somewhere.
But isn't enough? I mean, can we fund?
Lots of other countries are doing it now.
What?
They got there somehow, and yeah, they do have higher taxes, and the taxes and the higher rates of tax do extend down into all levels of the economy.
You know, when we lived in Europe,
But the people in those countries have voted for that and have voted to continue it over and over again because they know that they're getting value for it.
but when we lived in France, you paid real taxes.
Yeah.
But
Serious
college was free.
Right.
When you retired, you got from the government a guarantee.
Precisely.
But now they're having to scale a lot of that back because they just can't afford it. I mean, if we had not spent the money of the baby boomers, Social Security would be alive and well.
Well, and of course it would have helped not to have flushed huge amounts of money down the drain in military adventures in places like Iraq. You know, that's good for a couple trillion right there. And
it kills me because, you know, you sit there and say, we're screaming about 19 trillion in debt. Yet, if you look back, it could be a lot smaller number.
well, the people who scream the loudest about that are responsible for a very large amount of that debt. You know, and they didn't bat an eyelash when they were signing the promissory notes on our behalf.
Well, not on our behalf, on our children's behalf.
And our grandchildren's and
Yeah,
on and on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you start thinking about each American owing 40 grand or... But again, I'm hard pressed to say, dang those Democrats, dang those Republicans, because they all seem to be in the same boat. You know, we're still spending, in my mind, a fortune on military. And, you know, I understood Bush 1. Okay? Bad people went into a friend of ours, Kuwait, and we said, get out. We went to war, we pushed them back to Iraq and stopped and got out. Okay, we're good at doing war.
Yep.
But now we decide to be a policeman and spend a fortune.
Policing people who don't want to be policed.
And, you know, and it comes back to, you know, what we were talking about originally, where I said, if somebody came into Milford and took over Milford, you'd stand shoulder to shoulder with Ed Bertarelli and smile, saying, first we're getting them out of our town.
Then we can argue about the stuff we disagree
Yes,
about.
then we'll get back to disagreeing. So, you know, you sit there and say, is it really a political thing, or?
There's a lot of just plain momentum in this, and habit and organizational inertia. So many companies are all focused on kind of keeping the military budget the way it is.
Well, they make money.
You know, they do, and they spread the munificence all around all the critical congressional districts. And so, first thing you know, we're spending, you know, 20 years after the end of the Cold War, we're still spending more money than the next 8 nations put together on the military.
But now, there's a logical reason why major defense contractors have plants in 48 states.
Oh, it's
yeah.
very logical.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's
You know,
it's
when
brilliant.
you think about when we tried killing the second engine for the advanced
Oh, yeah.
fighter,
Oh, yeah.
and the military said, we don't need it. But the people out in Springfield said, wait a minute,
Yeah.
how many of our voters
Yeah.
have jobs making that
Absolutely.
engine?
Congress is always saddling the military with things they don't want.
But how do you break that? If you're going to really break out of the spend till the end theory, how do you do that? And is it a Republican or a Democrat thing?
Well, it's been going on under
Both.
both.
Yeah.
Let's bring Chris into the conversation.
Both. Really.
And that's really, you know, when I think about what we went through, you know, and you say we're going to tax the upper 1%, that'll fix everything. I heard that 8 years ago from Obama, that he would fix it. He's only going to tax people yet
I think it was
Didn't actually tax them.
250,000.
it was
at one point,
$1,500,000,
or over
There were
250.
different versions of the
Right.
deal that
It
they
got
were
down to
working on.
250.
Okay, so here we are 8 years later. Has anything really changed?
Well, it
Well,
hasn't.
Well, actually, the budget deficit is I think down to something like a third or a quarter of what it was when we started, and a lot of that has
And
to
the
do with the economy isn't you know, in a virtual depression right now.
And we've cut our unemployment in half, if you want to define it the way they're
The government
defining
does.
But doesn't it scare you that January of 16 is the worst month? I don't know if it's on history, but for the stock market?
Well, that had a lot to do with China, too. I mean, China's economy is so unstable right now, it seems to be kind of bottoming out a little bit. So there's a lot of other factors that are impacting that are beyond our control at this point. That's the
But
way
if
I
you
see it.
have a Bernie running it, is he going to be able to make any difference?
Is any one president going to make any difference? You got to have Congress behind you. That's the reality.
And that's where
And that's what why he wants his political
the biggest
revolution.
issue I have with Donald Trump is not only what he does, and I cannot get over that I watched him make funny faces during a debate, and I kept thinking if this was a G7 meeting or whatever, and Putin's talking, is he going to be going,
Yeah.
making goofy? I felt like I was back in grade school.
Thank you.
You know, and this is going to be the guy who leads and then he turns around, leads my country, and then he turns around and says, okay, I can work with Congress. The next day he says, well, they're stupid, all of them.
But let's look at it, though. It's not Donald Trump that's the problem. It's the people that are supporting him. I mean, really, think about it. This is a man who's broken every rule in terms of cordialness, professionalism, just everything, and yet people still follow him. That's what scares me more, not Donald Trump. The people that are buying into this.
40% are saying they would vote for Donald Trump.
Instead of who, though?
Of
Republicans.
Republicans, yeah.
But that's half the country.
But, well, 40%
Look at
of
the
not
last
quite half the
elections.
country.
You're not voting. I mean, at the end
That's
of the
not
day, it's
independence,
not
though.
67% blue and 30% red. It comes out, to me, there's a third. You mentioned it. You said no matter what, if I go into the booth and it's Hillary versus Donald or the creepy guy, Cruz, that just creeps me out. I'm sorry. He's creepy.
I have a thought about that later, but go ahead.
You'd still go Hillary no matter what.
I'd have to.
Okay,
Yeah.
so to me, there's 66% have made up their mind. And you're fighting for the 33%.
You are.
That's right.
People in the middle,
That's
yes.
right.
Right?
right.
Actually, it's a much smaller
Much
percentage
even-
than
Or
that.
maybe
smaller.
it's
It's like
20%.
It's like 15 or maybe even 10% by now.
Yeah,
So
it's even.
you
it's
sit there and
10%.
say there's still 40% of the people in Iowa are saying I mean, listen to the guy who said I could murder somebody in public and these people would still follow me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a frightening? I mean, the fact you would say it.
I know.
Yeah, the
On the-
fact
on
that
the
he
bright
created
side-
that reality in his
Yeah.
head
Yeah.
is frightening.
But the fact he verbalize it is
Yeah,
bad
yes,
enough.
yes,
Because
yes,
sometimes
yes.
you think things that, oh my God, I could never say that
Maybe
publicly.
it's a conspiracy that he's created to sabotage the Republican Party, and he's really working
There
for
are
the
people who
Democrats.
said
There are people who
he
do that.
really wanted Hillary Clinton to win, so he was going to go out there. But the problem is,
They're self-destructing.
Well, but let's finish up on the blue side before we
Sure.
go beat up the red ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so you really think that Bernie could
You know-
bring some of his ideas to life?
I think that he can't do it alone. He keeps saying that that to do this, we have to create what he calls a political revolution, which is basically a huge number of people who have been sitting things out, getting involved and helping to elect the kind of people we need to put this through. Now,
And I want to. Obama had this kind of the same premise, organizing for America. Only the problem is, it just went nowhere. He dropped it.
Well, but
after
Obama to
he
me
got
has been one of the most
elected.
consistent presidents I can remember. He came in, and everything in my mind he was talking about was wealth redistribution. And he seems to have been, for 8 years, everything he's doing is about wealth redistribution. I mean, I have no doubt that he has no interest in really cutting back the deficit, because he knows who's going to pay for it. It's going to be the upper middle class and the wealthy. But what is Bernie really going to do? Is it going to be another 8 years of we had good intentions but nothing happened?
Well, he's got a history from when he was mayor in Vermont, in Burlington. He was able to work across the aisle and really got a lot of stuff done. Now, granted, times were different and it was a smaller venue, but still, he really got a lot of people on board, people that were naysayers to him that didn't support him at all, and he really won over people. So I think part of it is lobbying, working with people, reaching across the aisle,
Well, the
diplomatic.
sincerity will help him, because he does come across as a college professor.
yeah, kind
I mean, I
of.
hate to say it, but you know,
Yeah.
I think of my old college professors,
Yeah, he does kind of look like that.
and
Or an
but he
uncle.
talks like that. You get a feeling for sincerity,
passion.
passion. You know, realism, I still don't know, but
But he's more realistic than Donald Trump. He's been in the Senate. He was,
Chris,
He's been in
tell
there
me
for a
I'm
quarter century.
better looking than the ugly warthog of the pack. Yes. Come on.
that is
Comparing
bar
somebody
pretty low,
to
admittedly.
Donald Trump in that regard, it's like saying he's the prettiest warthog of the bunch.
Yeah.
Excuse me? I still don't
warthogs are
think I
kind of
take that as a
cute.
compliment. Let's shift.
Yeah.
Hillary.
Yeah.
Help
Hillary.
me understand. I just don't trust her. And the problem is, I think she's brilliant and very good at getting what she wants.
This, of course, you're talking to two people who have Bernie buttons
stickers
on.
Bernie
Yeah, but-
I have it in my pocketbook.
Okay.
Okay. So
Bernie just went away.
Yeah,
You
okay.
walk into the booth,
Okay.
Yeah.
there's Hillary and there's red people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you go Hillary versus red people?
Versus red people.
Well,
If we don't go with Hillary, there will not be a planet to live on, because the Republicans don't believe in climate change, or they're going to try to ignore it. They're going to they're doing everything. They're throwing everything in the way of our having a sustainable planet, and there will not be a planet to live on if we have Republicans for 8 more years.
Come on.
No,
You
I'm
can't really say they're going to blow up the planet.
No.
Not
They
blow
will
up the
just.
planet.
They will just.
they will allow the
just
planet
rape
to
it.
blow itself up.
They will. They are doing a very good job of pushing all the fossil fuel industry to just eviscerate our planet. And they don't care about the consequences. They really don't care. I don't
really believe that?
Yes, I do. I do not understand how they sleep at night if they have children and grandchildren.
But yet, when I do the conservative view, they're telling me it's all these blue people that are going to bankrupt us, and then we can't put any money into saving the planet. And the Democrats are going to destroy the world.
Do your conservative friends actually talk about saving the planet? Do they see saving the planet as something that needs to be done, and what do they mean by that?
But don't we all, when you think of your kids and your grandkids?
Yeah, well, of course.
No, but
of
what
course.
does that mean to them? Does that mean that we continue to with the status quo, with what we've been doing for business as usual for centuries, and just not? And
So, yeah. So you asked about Hillary. So I don't really trust Hillary either, for some of the reasons you've mentioned.
Yep.
And because she's just been so
She's
slick
too good
and
at
so
what
smooth.
she does. I
So
hate to say
here's
it.
the thing. Here's the thing, though. It's not just Hillary. It's whoever gets in power. That's not the end of the game. You have to, as a citizen activist, you have to work to push them to do the kinds of things you want to do. And so whether we elect Bernie or whether we elect Hillary, it's the same game. We're going to have to flip some congressional districts and some state houses. We're going to have to put progressive people in there who will A, give Hillary cover, and B, give Hillary votes such that she will find it to her advantage to build a more progressive legacy for herself than what she would otherwise build if none of that happened. And so it's sort of, you put somebody in there who understands how the instrument panel works, and then you push them to fly the plane in the right direction, is kind of the theory here.
You're being awful quiet.
Well, I was hearing, and I'm going to spinball off of what both of them said, that with Hillary, to vote for her, at the very least, she's making these promises and talking the talk, albeit maybe a little bit slower to come around with some issues. But she's talking it, so now we have to hold her accountable for that, like you were saying. With the other candidates on the Republican side, they're saying things that I can't even if I don't believe them, I can't even agree with. You know, with Hillary, she's saying it because she has to. Bernie is gaining on her, so she's come around and she's gotten.
But is she the Richard Milhous of this decade?
Good question. I don't know.
Because
that's going to have to play out. History's going to tell us that.
Forever, that if Nixon had gotten up and said, "I screwed up. I'm sorry. It was stupid. Please forgive me," he would have never had to resign.
Probably.
Probably,
because
most likely.
Americans don't kick dogs when they're down.
That's right, and he was very
Hillary
good
with
at playing Dear
Benghazi
Me
and
too.
all,
Well, he had that dog face too. That helped.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, you sit there and I mean, I'm
feel
laughing
sorry
because
for
they're
him for
saying if
looking like that.
Rubio goes against Hillary, it's going to be the reverse of the 63 or whatever it was debates. You're going to have an old Democrat against a young Republican. You know, the image of JFK against a sweating old Nixon.
That was one of the first televised debates, wasn't it? So
Yeah, it
was
he
the
really
first.
had a decided advantage being an attractive guy, well put together.
But you got a funny, kind of creepy vibe off of Nixon.
Oh well, yeah.
Well, I don't remember.
No, but I saw
too young.
the tape.
No,
But now-
yeah, he had shifty eyes. He would not look you straight in the eye.
And why do I not get the same feeling with her? Only she's a lot smarter.
Yeah.
She's a lot more effective.
But she's more scripted. She's more, you know, very professional. She's handled. She's scripted. And Bernie isn't, and I think that comes off more sincere. He speaks from the heart. And I tell you, that resonates with me and with a lot of people, I feel. And that's one of the issues. I don't want to speak for everybody, but with Hillary, that yes, she's smart, she knows that she probably can get things done, but she is...
I keep getting, two things bother me. One, I don't think she's being honest with me. Too many of the things she says seem economical with the truth. And secondly, she just seems arrogant, like Nixon, that she feels she's above the law.
Or sort of entitled to the position that she
same
has.
thing to
yeah.
me. You know?
Yeah.
Now, if we shift colors, Chris, here's your chance.
Uh-oh. I'm ready. Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out this whole red side of the slate.
Okay.
You know, and I said it from the beginning. And 6 months ago, I said my biggest nightmare is I walk into the voting booth and I have a choice between somebody who lies to me, who I can't trust, who I don't believe will ever tell me the truth, and a buffoon. Okay? What's your take on the red side?
It seems that the loud and forgive me, kind of crazies are taking center stage and getting all the attention, and people who are more moderate, that are probably more balanced, that if they ended up getting in, I probably wouldn't feel as though I had to leave the country, are not getting any traction, and I don't understand. And are they catering to the sensationalized? What's driving it? Is it the media driving it, or the individual? Because it seems cyclical, because the media is feeding off of Trump and Cruz now, you know.
But I remember the California elections with Brown, where people voted in the primaries for Mickey Mouse to make a statement that, hey, I'm not pleased with any of the
So you're
choice.
thinking Donald Trump is the Mickey Mouse of this generation?
I only wish
I'm hoping, but
I
you
only
know.
wish he was that intelligent, but no. When it came down to the election, you know, the actual primaries in the election, okay, we're not dealing with Mickey Mouse anymore here. The election, we're going to vote real. But Trump hasn't lost traction.
No.
I mean, 40% in Iowa? These are down to earth. I mean, they're very red.
Well, and the remarkable thing is that so many of them are evangelical Christians, and
With Sarah Palin
and they're
coming
still
over.
going for Trump, who has no plausible pretensions in that direction
Wait a minute,
whatsoever.
he loves the Bible. He said that.
Yeah.
All of it. When they
Two
asked him a
Corinthians
particular...
walk into a bar. I mean,
He said he loved all of it.
they were trying to pin him down to say what passage of the Bible. Well, I don't know. They're all good.
But isn't that, when I listen to the debates, and Donald, well, I would make it better. I will work with them and make it better. Okay, I love my mother. Yes, there are certain motherhood statements. How will you make it better?
he won't tell you.
I'm going to build a wall and the Mexicans are going to pay for it. Hello? Seriously.
Yeah.
We're going to build a wall so the people who really help our economy by sending money home to their relatives can't do that anymore.
That's right.
I'm going to deport. I mean, our police chief, Tom O'Loughlin, put it in perspective when he said, if we seal the borders, forget how we do it. Star Trek, we put a force field, you know.
They bounce off.
They bounce off. It would take 84 years to deport the illegal aliens we have in this country.
It would cost,
what cost?
and it would
Thank you.
cost hundreds of billions of dollars.
Billions.
Even if you put the money in, 84 years from now? Come on. This is not real.
Well, I mean, you know,
No, it's not.
You know, make America great again. We did not become great by keeping people out. We became great by bringing people in. And
we are the biggest thieves in the world. We steal the top
Shamelessly.
people. You know, you think of the kids coming to college here. They're not the poorest, the dumbest. They pay full fare at Ivy League schools, and then we keep 25% of them.
Yeah.
This is a very good thing for our country.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody remember Werner von Braun?
No, we do not do rockets. We do not do any of, you know, you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, rocket science was entitlement to the U.S. We didn't need to learn it from anybody, right? Wasn't there a book dug up and it taught it? No. But Donald Trump, yes or no, do you think he'll survive this?
I really can't see him surviving. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I just feel that when the regular voters come out, and maybe this is good because it'll prompt more people to come out and vote, hopefully, you know, but I think when a lot of the independents and stuff come out, I don't think he's going to win. Kasich is doing well with the independents up in New Hampshire.
Who?
Kasich.
Kasich.
Who?
His first name is John.
What does he call himself? The rascally, the rascal. I still haven't understood what that.
Yeah.
He actually has a hairdo also.
Now you
noticed.
look. If you take Trump out, if I say Cruz, yeah, exactly. He's creepy. I don't know why, but he just.
Well, wait. How come religion is so entwined in politics now? I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with religion. I have a problem with it being such in the foreground, and they've created this now. I thought it was supposed to be, you know, when Kennedy ran, didn't they get upset or concerned about the fact that he was Catholic? I don't remember. I read about it.
You can't elect a Catholic because the Pope will move into the West Wing.
Or it'll influence his politics.
Or will
Right?
influence
I mean,
what
it was
he
like.
does.
That's right.
And he had to have this whole big speech explaining how
And
he
you
would
had
not
a
act
person
as a
who was
Catholic.
running number 2 in the Republican Party till he started saying things like, I'm going to paint an entire group of people with a broad brush. Can't have a Muslim president. Wait a minute.
Well, didn't they give Romney, too, a little bit of
Oh, the
hard time
Mormon
because
thing?
of his
Oh,
Mormon?
yeah.
But
Now
you know,
all-
you sit there and say, we lived through JFK. I don't remember the Pope or Catholicism going up or down because we had a president who happened to worship that way. And
No.
candidly,
All this religion and politics is just
Well,
all.
I have no problem with somebody saying, I think religion is good. I know I'm going to alienate the two atheists in the area, but religion, good values, you know, that type thing. But I don't really, if you really believe there is one God and you really believe you will be judged by somebody, he, she, the entity, whatever you want to call it, is all one. Who am I to question why God created 5 religions if I believe in God? So I have no problem with religion.
Right.
I do have a problem with saying I want a Christian religion to take center stage. And I'm a Catholic. You know, I mean, I'm okay with Jesus.
The whole
But-
point is that free to worship as you want.
Yes.
Free, and then politics should be separate.
Well, and you know, bringing this back to Cruz, I don't know how anybody else here feels, but I think that he's just using the issue, and he's
Aren't
He
they
doesn't.
all?
and you know, I don't think that there's any sincerity in it, really.
The vocal, to me, the vocal majority, not the majority, but the vocal majority out in the red states are very evangelical. And
Yeah.
I think too many of these people are playing to that.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
now,
They're just-
take Cruz out of it.
yeah.
Who's next? Rubio?
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah,
who,
I think Rubio.
after that, who has
Yeah.
the next highest rating?
They all kind of blend,
It's
but
kind
Rubio
of
seems to be
Rubio-ish.
a
Yeah,
third.
it's just,
yeah.
yeah, there are a few that are.
What do you think of
it's just-
Rubio?
Well, here's a guy who represents a state that is basically a very, very large sandbar, which is going to be rejoining the Atlantic Ocean if we don't deal with climate change.
And he
And-
denies it.
But he doesn't, you know, he's not a scientist, and he doesn't feel that he has any need to listen to people who are.
But you know, the piece that bothered me is if I was in Florida and I hired you to represent me, and you stopped showing up,
Oh,
mean,
I'd be
they all have staffs.
I'd be
but
extremely irritated about
Fly
that.
your butt home and vote,
Absolutely.
and make sure you vote for what's good for Floridians.
Yeah.
That was even before he was running for president,
But
though,
that's,
correct?
it's not, when he said, I'm going to miss some votes because I'm running for president, first of all, I don't accept that premise. You
Bernie
have
is
enough
not.
money, fly home, or fly to Washington. But this was a trend that was continued.
Right.
Oh, yeah, he was
Yeah.
already, had a lot of absenteeism. Already.
And then you got the one I can't understand, Jeb Bush, poor guy. I'm the better Bush, the smarter Bush. He seems to have gotten nowhere.
I know.
No, he is nowhere.
Despite $50 million or something.
A lot of money.
A
A
huge
lot of
amounts
nice
money.
ads. I
But
like
that's
his
not-
ads.
Apparently that's not what people want.
No.
I mean, you got Rand Paul, which probably the closest, you know, I've laughed and said that guy could have saved the Republican Party from itself.
You know what they
because he
call
seems
him
to
in
be
a-
more in the middle, but,
You know what they call him in Kentucky? Random Paul.
well, he's
There's a
sitting there,
drinking liberally out there that refers to
really?
him as
Random
Random
Paul.
but he's
Paul.
sitting there at 2%.
Yeah.
But Christine, let me ask you, if you had a Rand Paul and a Ted Cruz, I know the thought.
I'd
probably-
have to probably, you put a gun to my head. If I was in Kentucky, you probably would. I would probably go with Rand Paul.
Yeah.
He's more
I
in the
would-
middle.
You'd have to.
I would too.
But yet the primaries seem to be pushing.
They're just the media is doing this good job of driving this country to
Well,
extremes.
put it this way: Donald Trump
He plays to it.
annoys people, so they watch TV, and you
Yes.
can sell more ads.
Right.
You know, but when we start looking at being effective, hey, why are you taking away the pipeline that's going to save me all my energy money? The safest pipeline in the world that nothing could ever go wrong, bring me cheap energy. And
Gee, who told you that?
I don't know, so I keep reading. I don't have to pay for it. It's free.
Yeah.
No,
Actually,
that's not true. You do
you
have
do
to pay
actually-
for
you
it.
do actually
You
pay
would be
for it.
paying if these pipelines, if the Spectra pipeline comes through, or Spectra Access Northeast pipeline in various permutations. There are all kinds of places.
So it's not going to be free.
Not going to be
No,
free.
no. The Department of Public Utilities would be charging us a surcharge on our electric bills.
And we desperately need the gas.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Because the
Who says so?
because the Conservation Law Foundation last fall put out a study for a regional study whether we needed the pipelines. They said no. And a month or two later, our wonderful Attorney General, Maura Healey, had a study done, and it came up with the same conclusion. We do not need these pipelines. She also included that study in the docket to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission on that particular, for Spectra.
And they're totally safe. Nothing ever goes wrong with a pipeline.
Well, I'll tell you what. There have been some
If you believe that, I have a bridge to
we have
sell
some
you.
hair-raising pictures to show you, if you want to see them sometime, of pipeline explosions.
They're called incineration zones.
Yeah, when a high-pressure pipeline bursts, normally the bursting of it, you usually get a spark out of that somehow, and so then you get an explosion. And you think about a pipeline that's maybe 30 inches in diameter, like this one, with valves every few miles.
We just saw homes which have a 2-inch pipeline.
Yep.
And the whole house is incinerated.
Yeah, well, so we're talking 30-inch line with gas at hundreds of pounds per square inch. Think about 800 pounds per square inch. Think about several miles of that. Okay, so now a rupture happens. You close the valves at both ends. All the gas in all of those miles is going to come out of there, and it's going to burn. And the heat from that is going to start things on fire hundreds of feet away from where it is.
So why are we doing this pipe? Well, first of all, this is not an abstract thought.
No.
They're talking about a piece of pipe running through the center of the universe here, Milford, right?
There's a pipe that's going to run through northern Milford, and there's another pipeline that runs from Medway.
Where is northern Milford?
Right by the
By
Hopkinton, isn't it by the Hopkinton line too?
It
right
is,
up
yeah.
by Purchase Street further, because I happened to see the map the other night.
It's the top of Purchase Street by South Street.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, this is not, well, this doesn't affect us. It's out in one of the square
0.62
states.
miles from my house.
2 miles?
No, a little over a half mile.
A little over half a mile.
A little over
yeah.
half a mile from.
Okay.
Well,
So, fundamental question.
yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Because of money, because the fossil fuel industry wants us to keep the status quo.
They've got all this gas that they're getting out of the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania by fracking, which basically is turning that part of Pennsylvania into an industrial sacrifice
Yeah, and everybody's
zone.
saying it's nice if they frack somewhere else, because I don't want to be fracked here and have
You do
the
not want to
water.
be fracked. Your
When I see
your
that
land
people can't
becomes
drink the
valueless,
water.
and yeah, it's awful.
Rand, the land, I know it kills me to say this, or it'll kill you as environmentalists. It doesn't bother me as much as the kids.
Well, that's the point.
I
It's
mean,
the
at the
people
end
who,
of the day, I can drive away from contaminated dirt.
well,
But if I take my
if you
contaminated
own a
kids,
patch of land in dirt that has now been contaminated
Yeah.
for you,
I'm bankrupt.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
But if you contaminate my kids,
yeah,
there ain't nothing I'm doing about that.
Well,
I can't run away from that.
If the dirt is contaminated, your kids eventually will become contaminated. Look at
Contaminates
what's
the
happened
water
to Flint.
in Flint.
so
We have this myth that we are separate from nature. We are not. We are part of nature. We are part of this whole scheme, and to think that we can have some place that's dirty and contaminated, and have us still be pristine and pure and healthy,
doesn't work that
not
way.
happening.
Now, are we going to tax people for this pipeline?
The plan is that all electricity ratepayers will pay a surcharge, effectively an electricity tax, to finance the construction of these pipelines.
But if
Because
it's
the
gonna
gas
sa-
company need that money.
Well,
They
wait a
have to have
minute.
somebody else
It's going
pay
to
it.
save me all this money.
Well, it might
How
not.
is it gonna
might
save
or,
it?
That's what they say, but it might or
It's
it
going
might
to save
not.
them all
Maybe
this
in the
money
short
because
term.
we're
Of course
gonna be
they'll say
paying
that.
for it.
But I raised the question: if you're doing it because you're philanthropic and you're going to save me
Yeah.
money, then why do you have to tax me?
Yeah.
One
there
would,
you go.
yeah. Well,
So I'm confused. So I guess
the
it's not free.
No.
Nope,
It's
not
not
free.
ultra safe.
right.
Go through all the things that I asked.
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm a bit confused.
Well,
Well, we're sorry if we're
beginning
bursting your bubble here.
Yeah, people are beginning to see the writing on the wall about climate change. They're beginning to notice that on Christmas Eve it was in the 50s or 60s. That's not what it has been historically. The weather is different now. It is more extreme than it has been, and climate change is contributing to that. It is not the reason but it is. We have regular weather patterns, and it is making our regular weather patterns more extreme.
Let me ask you a question about karma. In Texas,
Yes.
you have a very conservative Republican, you'll be happy to hear, DA, that empowers a grand jury because Planned Parenthood's been doing all these really bad things, and he wants them held to task. And now all of a sudden, somehow, the grand jury, followed the money, they followed the evidence, and they are indicting the people who
Produced
collected,
that film. Yeah.
Who made those videos?
Made the videos.
okay, what's going on?
Well, I actually wonder about whether, normally you think of a prosecutor as being able to control what a grand jury does, but I
Yeah, he
wonder if
picks
this
his battles.
I wonder if this grand jury has gotten sort of has managed to get out of school early somehow.
Well, but Rand,
I can't imagine that this guy wanted this outcome.
here's the problem. No, he didn't, obviously. But here's the problem I have. I heard Carly Fiorini talk about things that just made my skin crawl.
And they're lies.
Well, but
Which are not true.
They are
there
lies.
was a living, breathing baby on a table that a doctor murdered to harvest a brain. Now,
That's what she claimed.
you can argue all day long the meaning of life, but if there's a living, breathing baby,
I don't know what the circumstances of that particular clip was. Do you?
but
there
the
was
point
not
is,
a clip.
why
It did not
haven't we
happen.
heard that
Right.
that doctor is being prosecuted for murder?
Because it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Then why haven't I heard about all these bad people doing bad things being prosecuted?
Because it didn't exist.
Because it didn't happen.
That's why they're not being prosecuted.
Yeah.
So this whole thing of defund Planned Parenthood and all that stuff, I don't see any traction.
Well,
They've been exonerated. They've already investigated, and
The Republicans never let a few facts get in their way.
that's true. Details.
I hate to say it, there's too many politicians that don't let facts get in the way of an informed opinion. Yes.
or an ill-informed one.
But I laugh because Obamacare is evil. It's bad. Yet the idea of defunding Planned Parenthood, when you look at some of the poor areas, they do bring a lot of basic health
Women's health.
service to women.
I mean, the percentage of abortions that they actually do is so minuscule compared to the overall health care they provide to communities. And that's the meat and
Provide
potatoes of
mammograms,
what they are.
ultrasounds.
But Chris, if they're breaking the law,
How are they
nail-
breaking the
no,
law?
but I'm just saying, if you find evidence,
Right.
you're not supposed to use federal funding for abortions, is my understanding.
And those
So
abortions
if they
are not paid for.
No, but if Planned Parenthood of wherever is using federal funds for abortion,
That would be illegal, and
That
they
that
should
should
be
be illegal,
prosecuted
and those
for
people
it.
should be prosecuted.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But throwing the baby out with the bathwater, saying that we're going to rely on Obamacare, which we've tried as a Congress to overturn 40.
50, actually upwards of almost 60 times now.
Okay.
Okay, so now 60 strikes
Yeah.
and you're still not out?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
eventually, if I keep swinging and missing, you
I
know,
think that's placating to their constituents too, to say
Yeah.
they're going to do that.
they're going to.
because they would be very unpopular.
I'm going to kick the dead horse one more time.
right.
But
To
I
show
don't
I can.
understand. What's the alternative?
The alternative
isn't.
is actually doing real policy, because that's something they could play with. I
Hmm.
mean, that's really window dressing. I feel a lot of times, they've done, what else have they done? What else has this
Well,
Congress done?
It's just red meat.
Well,
Yes.
well, I mean, the Republicans have tried to defund or destroy Obamacare, all those times in Congress, and in states where they control the legislature, a lot of them have tried to sabotage the implementation of it. But they've had 6 years thereabouts to come up with an alternative, and they haven't.
Right.
Which tells me that they have no interest in coming up with an alternative. They don't actually want there to be a healthcare
Rand,
system in this country.
The problem I have is
You know,
we went through that in Massachusetts. Universal health care was going to kill the state.
Yeah.
Not dead yet. I mean, it's kind of like Monty Python.
Yeah.
Right? Not dead yet. Massachusetts seems to be doing okay. And the fallacy in my mind is we were providing health care for the non-insured anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, by people going to the emergency room.
When they're chronic.
It's really
Which
expensive.
is the really expensive way
When
to
they're
do it.
chronic.
Right.
If you don't take care of it early on, the cold turns into pneumonia, they show up at the hospital. Jeff Hopkins is not going to turn somebody away at the emergency room.
No.
Somebody comes in sick, he's going to take care of them.
That's part of the Hippocratic Oath, too. I mean, they have to. They have a responsibility.
It's part of law.
It actually says, the law actually requires them
But
to.
I mean, forget the law. Just, you're going to look at some little kid
Who's got
that
a
says,
broken
"Please
arm
help
and-
me," and you're going to say no. You know, it's like
Show
Bill
me the
Toohey
money.
saying, "Well, before I roll a fire truck, Rand, can I have your Visa card?"
Yeah.
Right?
Do you know that? Do you know that in ancient Rome, there was a guy named Crassus
Chris, yeah.
who ran the fire department, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
He said, "What's it worth to
Tokens.
you?"
Tokens.
This is where we get the word crass from.
Oh.
Tokens.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
want me to roll the fire? Tokens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a town that,
Oh, down in Texas.
yeah, that the fire department wouldn't
They wouldn't
respond
pay-
because they
wouldn't
didn't
put it down.
pay?
Yes. They
Not that
they
far-fetched.
privatized the fire department
Something
or something.
like that, yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, you talk about for 6 years. Do you believe? I mean, if we run with a Hillary model, it's Obama Rev 2.
It's and it'll be
Yeah.
Obamacare will continue and you know,
Maybe
things
we can
will be
tweak
done around the edges to tweak it.
Even if you had the ultra red guy,
Yeah.
you don't think Obamacare is going to continue? 48 tries and it's
at
still
this
alive?
Point, at this point, I mean, those 48 tries failed. A lot of them because they couldn't get it through the Senate.
Right.
Then they got a majority in the Senate, and then they get to the point where so they get vetoed. But you're right. It will not be easy for them to close down something that huge numbers of their constituents by now are depending on to get
benefiting
health
from.
care. This is what this governor in Kentucky is discovering, a new governor in Kentucky who ran on a platform of let's kill Obamacare and let's kill the Kentucky
And you know something? I'd be
implementation of
okay,
it.
Rand, if I say I'm going to... Personal flaw I have is I believe you get to complain about anything you're willing to fix.
Yes.
So if you came out and said Obamacare bad, Rand care better.
Yeah.
Right?
Tell me about this Rand care of which you
That's-
speak.
if you
What does it do? How does it work?
If you could explain to me how to make Obamacare better,
Yeah.
I think it's a legitimate gripe.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but like you were saying, they haven't come up with anything, so.
So now you have this thing of people who voted for this new governor because of things like abortion and gay marriage are discovering that they just voted to vaporize their own health care. And they're not happy about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, wasn't that part of the way our wonderful president was going to pay for some of these things? Those Cadillac health plans, he was going to tax.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realized school teachers, firemen, policemen.
A lot of people have those.
Had the best. Congress. Yeah, but they don't count. You can't.
Right.
You can't judge me against the laws I make. But you know, you turn around and say again, realistic. Why didn't you do your homework and realize
Figure that out in advance.
The salt of the earth, the people that you're supposed to be representing, you're now going to hit them hard, and the people up high, you're going to leave alone.
To circle back, that's precisely why people like Bernie Sanders and maybe why people are attracted to Donald Trump is because they're disgusted with the government, that they don't feel that the government is protecting everyday people. Generally, I mean, that's a flavor out there. And so Bernie's pushing back, saying we need something different.
And I'm okay with somebody saying, I like the outsiders. You know,
but
Donald
everybody
Trump
claims
has
to be
made
an
people
outsider.
talk. When he said he's going to shut all Muslims out of the country, I thought it was great. Because I sat there and said, the guy's on narcotics, and he should share them. You know,
Whatever it is,
how
it must
do you
be pretty good.
brand an entire group of people?
I know.
What are you going to do next? Say no Catholics?
Well,
remember
that
they
would be
asked-
the next thing.
Remember they asked Bush about only letting or not letting Muslims in, and they'll talk to people and find out if they're Christian. He says, well, how are you going to tell? And his response is, you'll just know. You'll just be able to tell.
So if I am
Yeah.
a terrorist and you say I'm not letting Buddhists or Muslims or Catholics
Whoever it
in,
is, yeah.
and I've read that. So I show up and Rand says, are you a Catholic? No, man. I'm Hindu. You know, no,
Got
I'm
the
not Catholic.
turban to prove
yeah,
it.
I'll put a turban on, or I'll do this.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, secret.
I will look like a stereotypical somebody because I know that if I say yes, I'm going to draw scrutiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll blend.
Oh, it's
I'll blend.
oh, it's so
But,
foolish.
You know, it's
The whole thing is foolish.
so I'm okay when he makes when he makes controversial statements, because people like me are going to sit there and say, "Oh my God, we should talk about this because we can't have somebody representing us if he really believes that you're going to ban all whatever it is." Wasn't our country founded on the fact that I get to do what I want as long as I don't impinge on your right to do yours?
That's the way it was when I went to school.
Okay, so now I'm going to say Christian good, Muslim bad, or Buddhist good, Hindu bad. Doesn't that kind of go against everything we stood for?
And how?
Yeah.
But do you feel comfortable that we want another 8 years, you know, Obama relived?
Well, it's not a question of want. There's also the question of what's the best we can get.
Yeah.
And so
I don't have a problem with Bernie pushing Hillary as far left as she'll go, because I like Bernie. I like where he's coming from. He's authentic. He's consistent. And if she winds up just enough to be, I mean, she's been very cautious all these years because she keep getting burned, and so you know, she plays it very close to her chest. And you know, if Bernie's in it to make a difference, whether he wins or not, you know, is almost immaterial.
Just got to get over the fact that
he wants to have the
Carolyn,
conversation.
my wallet keeps going like this every time I think of everything Bernie wants to do. I keep saying the $2 that I get for an allowance, I may not have my $2 anymore because he's going to take it, and I don't believe he'll stop.
But
at
you
the
know what?
top.
Also, this country has been sold a line that government is bad. Government can't do anything for you. We have to rely on privatization. It's the whole trickle down effect. We have not seen anything that has proven that the trickle down effect works. And now all the people who have been in the hole, all the middle class and people who have been believing that from the Republicans, all the wealthy Republicans who have been selling them this, are finally really mad. And now Trump is their voice.
Well, there's wealthy Democrats and wealthy Republicans that have all.
Oh yeah.
But stay tuned. In 90 days, we'll be able to get together and talk about what actually happened in Iowa,
Yep.
what happened in New Hampshire, and a few
by
other
then a
things.
lot of other stuff will have happened.
I know.
And as always, I've never asked and never will ask you to vote for any specific party or person. But I will always beg you, become informed. Don't fall into that category of I won't let facts get in the way of my informed opinion. Learn about the candidates. Make your own decisions. And then please get out and vote and let people know how you feel. Thank you for joining us. And as always, may God bless, and may tomorrow be a better night than tonight. Thanks.
Right.
Not too long since I've been home.